So, Chapter 431 had a lot of stuff packed into it, from the reunion of Class 1A to the exploration of Deku and Uraraka's relationship. And one of the most major developments from this chapter is a huge roster of characters ranked on the Hero Billboard chart in Japan. This is the largest number of characters we've ever seen on the Billboard chart of Japan. And now that this is the last list of characters that we will currently know about the rankings for now, I will try to explain all the heroes ranked on the chart and why they are ranked this way. Here we go. Every hero currently ranked on the Hero Billboard chart in Japan explained. There's so many to get to, so let's get started. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy Manga Drew, and I'm here to do a video talking about every hero ranked and explained on the most recent Hero Billboard chart in Japan in the My Hero Academia manga chapter 431. There are some very interesting characters that are put on this rank that I really want to go into, as well as just going into and explaining where everyone is on this actual chart that we've been waiting for so long. And while there are some characters that may not shock you being on the list, there are some that were very unexpected. So let's just get into it. But to start off, I think I need to explain what the Hero Billboard chart in Japan is, as well as going into a few characters that were previously ranked on the chart. And a brief summary, the Hero Billboard chart in Japan was an event held in the world of My Hero Academia where professional heroes are officially ranked by taking several factors into account, such as the level of their strength that they have displayed, the number of cases that they have resolved, their general popularity, and their overall contribution to society. And the ranking itself was typically televised, but throughout the series, we have either been told the rankings of pro heroes currently when they are making their first appearance, or the information that we learn later on can backtrack a character's ranking prior to the new chart being released. For example, Hawks, who we learned previously was the number 3 hero when the series began, but it's later moved up in the rankings. Or even how many of the members of the Wild Wild Pussycats rankings went down after Kamina. And that there is also the fact that there is an emphasis on the number of incidents resolved by the pro heroes, which is very much prominent for where they are placed on the chart. But not one of these is going to necessarily be the determining factor for how they were actually ranked. For example, it is implied that Endeavor was number 2, but because he was not as popular, if it was purely based on popularity, he would be lower at 4, while Best Jeanist as well as Hawks would be higher. And even then, All Might was number 1 for multiple years, even though the implication is that Endeavor may have solved more cases. So it's just that there is a fact that if you resolve a lot more larger incidences, or even incidences with greater value, you actually get a boost in your popularity, and therefore potentially a boost in the actual charts themselves. So basically, therefore, a hero's ability to solve high-profile cases directly impacts their ranking. And the use of the chart in the story this way seems to possibly create a negative loop, because it forces more of the heroes to be glorified while using a formula which could be seen as toxic or even abused by pro heroes. However, with the new information that we get from chapter 431, we learn that the system has been reformed and that it's a lot more complex, meaning that there is not a simple way to determine why certain characters are ranked. However, we can make heavy implications for why the characters were ranked the way that they are in the final ranking for the Hero Billboard charts in Japan. So let's just dive into the heroes and see why they are ranked in their specific places. And starting off, we have number 108, Mineta. Okay, let's be real. The fact that he's up here and is this high is solely because he was a member of Class A. Even characters such as Koda, Aoyama, and even Sato would most likely be higher ranked than him if they were even ranked at all. And that's mainly because these characters are strictly sidekicks to other characters within the story, who are actually ranked on the list. The only exception is Shinzo, who is actually unranked, but that's because he does not want to be popular and is basically Aizawa 2.0 and hates the spotlight. But to be fair to Mineta, he was a major part of the war and that he does have a heroic spirit, so it makes sense that he would rank on the list at all. But the reasoning why he is so low is basically due to his appearance, his personality, and his quirk. But also there is a specific reason for Mineta being 108, because 108 has a lot of significance in Japanese and also Buddhism and Hinduism as a whole. And that when it comes to specifically Japanese, it could be a representation of being born anew, which could imply that he's no longer as perverted as he was when the story was running proper. But hey, that's just the number theory. Also, I highly doubt it. But moving on, before we go through the actual list in order, I really want to talk about specific characters and their rankings when it comes to them being more older pro heroes and why they are still ranked. Because spoilers, most of the people on the chart are former students of Class A, Class B, UA, and are relatively young compared to the other individuals on the list. And that most likely the reasoning why there are a lot more younger people on the list is that youth would make you higher on the charts because you have a lot more energy and fervor as heroes to actually go out and help people. As well as the idea of the younger generation taking over and surpassing the older generation. In a way, the newer generation has the torch passed on to them by the previous generation, which is why older characters such as Present Mike, Death Arms, Ryukyu, and Gang Orca are only ranked 45, 42, 40, and 21 respectively. But even then, these charters still chart highly due to their commitment to being heroes even after society collapsed multiple years ago relative to the most recent chapter of My Hero Academia. But with that quick explanation aside, now we get to the part that I dread the most. Okay, look. There's a lot of characters that we have to go through, and I promise you, I will go through all of them on this list, but it'll have to be quick, and I'll be going from ranked 22 and below. Because for the most part, every hero other than the ones listed either played a well-known part or was somewhat prominent in the final war of My Hero Academia. And also, there's a lot more prominent former student characters that are higher up on the list that we have a lot more to go on besides them just being people who want to be heroes to save people and the fact that they are young and were prominent during the war. So here we go. I'm gonna go through the list right now. So at 44, we have Chargebolt Kaminari. At number 41, we have Shishi Cross. At number 39, we have Hagakure Invisible Girl. At number 36, we have Cellophane Zero. At number 34, we have Floppy. At number 33, we have Comic Man Fukadashi. We have 32, Tailman Ojiro. We have Earphone Jack. Jiro at number 30. We have Pinky Mineta at number 28. We have Real Steel Tetsu at number 26. We have Uraravity Uraraka at number 24. We have Battlefist Kendo at number 23. We have Lizardy Tokage at number 22. Now with that done, let's dive into the more special cases for the top 20, starting with Grand Shindo at number 20. Yeah, remember what I said previously about them wanting to be heroes, them being young, and all of that? Yeah, the only reason why he's here is mainly because he cracked the top 10 once a few years ago in the popularity poll. And Horikoshi recognized that apparently he is popular, so he put him at number 20. But to be fair, he does have a very cool quirk. He has a personality potentially on par with both Bakugo and Deku, which would put him on the list, as well as the fact that he did fight and continued to fight during the war, and even after Hero Society collapsed, shows that he does have a heroic spirit, so it makes sense that he would be up here. But even at Shindo at 20, we still have other characters who are more heavy hitters that played larger parts in the war, and we have more interesting personalities and are characters that the people in the world of My Hero Academia, as well as us the readers, have a greater connection to. Because we have Create Momo at number 19, Sun Eater Tamaki at 18, Tsukuyomi Tokoyami at 17, and Gale Force Anasa at 16. And those are not bad when it comes to ranking, as they were very important in the war. But then we have Great Explosion Murder God Dynamite Bakugo at 15. Now hold on, this may seem weird, but there is an explanation in story for why he is so low. Because in chapter 431, it is explained that he was actually ranked 4th on the charts. However, because of his personality, and it's confirmed in both chapters 430 and 431, yeah, his bad-mouthing personality and his attitude is the reasoning why he fell so low on the list, which also shows that when it comes to the hero rankings, that it's a lot more fluid and it isn't something that is only done at certain periods of time. So yeah, basically if Bakugo just had a better personality, he could be number 4, if not number 1, but I think we all know who number 1 is. But Bakugo pretty much sets a line for why the characters above him are more prominent in the rankings, and it's purely due on who they are as people, characters, as well as their personalities. And the characters that have probably greater personality and greater appeal to popularity to a wider audience would include the following, such as Mudman Juzo at 14, Ingenium Ida at 13, Red Riot Kirishima at 12, and Fat Gum at number 11. Now, Juzo may seem a little bit weird, but we also have to remember that he was one of the students who was a recommendation to UA. And he also played major roles in capturing a whole bunch of villains, not just during the raid, but also even in the final battle. And if you don't really pay attention to Juzo, you wouldn't realize that he does have a very caring and appropriate personality that could make him very more popular. And also when it comes to a character like Ingenium, who has had a relationship with Juzo during Class A versus Class B, it makes sense that he would also be higher up on the list due to the name Ingenium being something that is a family hero name, but also by the fact that he also played a major role in the defeat of Dabi by showing how fast he can go from crossing pretty much the entire country of Japan in less than 5 minutes. So it makes sense that he would be here, but even more interesting is Red Riot being at 12 and Fat Gum being at 11. Because with what we saw in chapter 431, Kirishima only recently became a solo pro hero with his own agency. But the implication is that he was able to obtain this rank even being under Fat Gum, because they see Kirishima and Fat Gum on par with each other when it comes to popularity, and it's because Fat Gum specifically wanted Kirishima because of who he was as a person and really wanted to mold and make him have the best possible opportunity to be a great hero. So it just makes sense that just because he came out as his own hero, that he would be lower than the person that he worked under. So that's the main reason why Fat Gum is 11 and Kiri is 12. But the reason why they aren't higher is because the ones in the top 10 played critical roles in why Hero Society turned out for the better and how they were able to have society come back from the destruction that was the final war. And I bring this up because we're about to talk about the number 10 hero, where we see that personality, depending on how it is, can very much greatly influence your ranking, as we have Phantom Thief Monoma at 10. And this is amazing and funny for a few reasons. One, it shows that the idea that the character with a quirk, quote, not suited to be a hero, can still shine bright. This fits with the themes of My Hero Academia when it comes to what it means to be a hero and that anyone can be a hero. And how Monoma, ignoring his personality flaws, has always wanted to be a selfless hero and always tried his best to be a hero because that's what he truly wanted to do. And by upholding those ideals, he was awarded by being able to break into the top 10 of My Hero Academia's Hero Billboard chart of Japan. But also, number 2, he was an MVP of the war. If it wasn't for Monoma, the heroes wouldn't have stood a chance against All For One and would have had to wait for All For One to make his move instead of being able to go at him evenly, relatively speaking. And third, it's definitely his personality. No matter how you put it, his personality is very fun to be around and look at from afar, as long as you're not on his bad side. For example, the entirety of Class 1A. But also, with his popularity, it does make sense that he would break into the top 10 in the hero Billboard charts because, ironically enough, if you didn't watch one of my previous videos, then you wouldn't know that Monoma also ranked 10 when it comes to the global worldwide popularity poll in our real world. So it's just a fun coincidence that makes sense that Monoma would be number 10 in both the fictional world of My Hero Academia, but also the real world that we're in right now. Also, did I forget that Monoma is extremely hot now? What? Yeah, attractiveness definitely is a reasoning why a lot of these characters are now on the list. And speaking of surprising hints, Tentacle Shoji is number 9 in the... But speaking of surprise hits, Tentacle Shoji is number 9 on the hero Billboard chart in Japan, and this also makes a whole lot of sense, both thematic wise and character wise, because while Shoji has a more stoic personality, his support for the heteromorph cause and ending discrimination alongside his contributions during the war and how he focuses on trying to build a world where everyone could be equal is the reasoning why he has become so popular. In 430, he literally got a prize equivalent to the real world Nobel Peace Prize. So with him being more well known as well as actually actively contributing to bettering society in different ways, that's why he's so highly ranked on the list, which once again shows that the list does not take into account just how many cases you solve or how popular you are, but actually showing contributions that you are making to actually build up society to be better. And then you also just have positions 3 to 7 and 8, but we'll get there. And when it comes to these characters, they did so much in the final war and are characters that continued fighting even when most of society fell, with the exception of Wash, who was number 8. But yeah, apparently the kids very much like Wash's gimmick, so that's why he's number 8, and that is also another explanation for why number 1 is in his position. But with Nejire-chan at number 7, Mirko at number 6, Best Genius at number 5, these characters make a lot of sense because of the roles that they played in the final war and how they continue to be symbols for the next generation to be more heroic, either if they want to be pro-heroes or not. And also, just having Mount Lady at 3 and Kamui Woods at 4 makes the most sense because these characters are not just popular within the world, but also ties into the fact that they were the first few characters that we saw that were coming up as new generational heroes at the beginning of the story. Because they were pretty much the new kids on the block, even though they were in their mid-20s, who showed up and showed out as being true heroes and pretty much showed their growth throughout the story, which makes it even better that these were also the first 2 heroes that we actually met properly in Chapter 1. And we just know how Chapter 430 very much likes to parallel events that happened in Chapter 1, and this is also included in Chapter 431. So the fact that they are number 3 and number 4 respectively is just perfect, but not as perfect as the number 1 and number 2 spots. And when it comes to the top 2, they have probably the most thematic and character reasons for why they're in their relative positions. And to start off with number 2, we have Shoto, which just makes the most sense. Not only was Shoto wanting to be a hero, but was also in a way groomed by Endeavor to be able to surpass All Might. Shoto being at 2 is just so much thematic and catharsis sense because even after everything Endeavor tried to do, Shoto was unable to reach the number 1 spot. And it's not because he isn't charismatic enough. It's not the fact that he doesn't have the power to do so. It probably just has to do with the fact that Shoto, while wanting to be a hero, also wants to do more. And that now he's reached the position that his father held, he has no real reason to continue on being a hero outside of that's just what he wants to do. Because Shoto never strived to be the number 2 hero. He just got there just of his own merit. And now that he's there, he really doesn't care because he never cared. But the fact that he's there and that he is setting a new example and a better understanding of what it means to be a Todoroki, and is most likely reshaping what it means to be a Todoroki while not necessarily ignoring the past. So I'm actually glad that they actually... So I'm actually glad that he's number 2 because it's a lot of thematic relevance and character relevance to the character being number 2. However, number 1 has it even more in spades with Lemillion Mirio at number 1. And I think that what makes this even more amazing is that this was foreshadowed a long time ago, where on Night Eye's deathbed, he pretty much said that Mirio would be the number 1 hero, or at least be one of the greatest heroes, and that we get to see Night Eye's dream and vision actually came true. And that's very important because Night Eye had this idea of like the future was set in stone, but then he later realized that the future can be changed. However, he explicitly looked into Mirio's future to guarantee his future to be the number 1 hero because he just cared for him so much. And even Mirio himself was a character with the personality and drive to be a hero on par with the main character Deku. And if Deku still had One for All, he would probably be in the number 1 spot, but because it's Mirio, it just makes just as much sense. But also, it's just a whole lot of buildup because the idea is that All Might was the number 1 hero and that you needed someone on par with All Might to be the number 1 to hold up society. And while Mirio isn't holding up society on his own, he does represent a lot of similar ideology as All Might, which makes sense that he would just take the number 1 spot. Also, kids love his Peach joke, so yeah, if anything, that's the main reason why he's number 1. But overall, he's there because he's number 1 based off his merit, his personality, and likability as a person. And yeah, that's the Hero Billboard chart in Japan explained. That was a lot of information that I had to go over. And let me ask you, how did you feel about the rankings of the heroes? Would you have liked more for Horikoshi to explain how the rankings are actually done? And who shocked you the most in their ranked position on the chart? Leave your thoughts down below and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all of that cool jazz and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!